The fuel industry has spent a century perfecting something most drivers never stop to question. And it is not the gasoline, it is the psychology of how that gasoline is priced and sold to you. Here is the number that should reframe the whole transaction before we even begin. The gas station you fill up at makes almost nothing on the fuel itself, somewhere between 1 and 2% net margin, often just 3 to 7 cents on a gallon, after the card fees and the overhead are paid. So if the fuel is not where the money is, you have to ask where the money actually comes from. And the answer is your habits, your payment method, your impulse purchases, and a dozen quiet pricing tricks engineered to separate you from a little more than you meant to spend on every single visit. None of it is illegal. Almost none of it is disclosed in a way you would notice, and all of it depends on you treating the pump as a simple exchange rather than the carefully designed profit machine it really is. I went through the industry's own data, the convenience store trade groups, the fuel economy testing, the payment processing rules, and the people who actually owned and ran these stations for decades, and I pulled out 14 secrets the business would genuinely rather you never learned. Some will save you money on the very next fill-up, some will change which pump you choose and which button you press, and the most expensive one of all is the one almost nobody does the math on. We are counting them down. Secret 14 is the one painted right on the giant sign, and you have stopped seeing it. The 9/10 of a cent tacked onto the end of every gas price in America. That fraction looks like a rounding quirk, a historical leftover, and that is exactly what the industry is happy for you to believe. It is neither. A fuel management specialist laid out the real math plainly, that a single station pumping 300,000 gallons a month pulls in more than $32,000 a year from that one sub-penny increment alone. $32,000, from the digit you cannot even pay in exact change. It survives because it works as psychology. The same reason retail prices end in 99, making $3.49 read as cheaper than it is. And when one state actually banned fractional pricing back in the 1980s, drivers grumbled and the practice quietly crept back. You will never shave that fraction off, but understanding it is the first crack in the illusion that the price on the sign is a neutral, honest number, rather than a carefully engineered one. Secret 13 is the trap waiting at the moment you choose how to pay, the credit card surcharge, and it has quietly exploded into one of the most aggressive pricing games on the forecourt. Gas stations pay the card networks a processing fee on every swipe, somewhere around 2 to 3%, which on $4 gas is roughly 8 to 10 cents a gallon, and to recover it, many stations now post two different prices, one for cash and a higher one for credit. That part is defensible. What is not is how far some have pushed it, with investigations finding stations charging not 10 cents, but as much as a full dollar more per gallon for paying with a card, and doing it legally as long as the difference is disclosed somewhere, even in fine print you would never read from the road. One Consumer Reports editor got caught by a 70-cent per gallon cash discount she never saw, and paid nearly $13 extra on a single fill-up. The defense is your own attention. Pull up to the pump and read the actual pump, not the big sign at the curb, because the surcharge is often hidden at the dispenser while the street sign advertises the cash price to lure you in. Secret 12 is the flip side of that same coin, and it is where most people get the math exactly backwards, the cash versus rewards calculation. The reflex is that cash is always cheaper, but it depends entirely on what your card pays back. If a station's cash discount is 10 cents on $4 gas, that is a 2.5% saving, and a card returning 3, 4, or 5% cash back on fuel actually beats paying cash even before any surcharge. But flip the numbers, and the answer flips too, because if the station's cash discount is a steep 20 cents a gallon, that crushes what a 2% card returns, and cash wins clearly. The secret is not cash good, card bad, or the reverse. The secret is that there is a real break-even point, and the station is betting you will never calculate it, just default to plastic out of habit while they pocket the spread. Do the quick arithmetic at the pump, and you stop being the customer the pricing was designed around. Secret 11 is the layer of savings sitting unused in most drivers' pockets. The loyalty and grocery rewards programs that the big chains run precisely because they work on the people who ignore them. Nearly every major brand has one. Shell's Fuel Rewards, ExxonMobil's rewards program, The grocery-linked schemes where spending at a partner supermarket like Kroger or Safeway earns cents off per gallon, and they are free to join. Shell's program, for instance, knocks an initial amount off every gallon and unlocks a bigger per-gallon discount once you fill up enough times in a quarter, and the grocery tie-ins can stack real money onto fuel you were buying anyway, alongside food you were buying anyway. The reason the industry is comfortable advertising these is that the redemption rates are low, because most people sign up once and never scan the card, which means the discount exists mainly to make you loyal to the brand rather than to actually save you money you collect. Use it properly, scan every time, stack it on a deliberately chosen cheaper station, and you flip the program's intended math in your favor. Secret 10 is the app that turns the entire opaque game transparent in about 10 seconds, and the stations relying on your laziness hate it. Tools like GasBuddy and Upside map live, crowdsourced prices at every station around you, including, increasingly, the cash versus credit split, and the spread they reveal is often enormous over a very short distance. This matters because of a quiet fact about how stations set prices, which is that an oil company is legally not even allowed to dictate the price at the pump, so prices are set locally, station by station, which is exactly why two stations a mile apart can differ by 20 or 30 cents for chemically similar fuel. The app collapses that information gap, and the only thing standing between you and the cheaper pump is the 10 seconds it takes to look before you drive, instead of pulling into whichever station you happen to be passing when the needle dropped. Secret 9 is the single most consistent overcharge in motoring, the premium octane button, and the industry adores it because it carries the fattest margin on the entire forecourt. Octane is not a quality rating, and it is not a measure of cleaning power. It is simply how much compression the fuel can take before it knocks, and your engine needs higher octane only if the manufacturer specifically requires it, which is printed on your fuel door and in your manual. If it says required, buy premium. If it says recommended, that word means optional. And if your car is built for regular, AAA put vehicles on a dynamometer with regular and premium, and found no meaningful gain in power, economy, or emissions for cars designed for regular, a finding Consumer Reports confirmed. You are pouring 40 to 60 cents a gallon extra into a tank that cannot use it, every fill-up, for a benefit that does not exist for your engine. And the marketing has spent decades training you to equate the word premium with taking good care of your car. Secret 8 is the myth your relatives swear by that costs you nothing, only because it does nothing. Filling up early in the morning to get denser, colder fuel. The theory is that gasoline expands as it warms, so a cold morning gallon contains more energy than a hot afternoon one. The flaw is that the fuel is not sitting in the sun. It lives in large underground tanks where the temperature barely moves between dawn and afternoon, regardless of the air above. So any density difference at the moment it flows into your tank is, by the measurements of the people who have actually checked, negligible. Buy gas when your car needs gas. Secret 7 is the small daily habit that pours fuel and money straight onto the ground, topping off after the pump clicks. That automatic shutoff is not a suggestion. It is calibrated to stop at the right point, and squeezing in a few extra cents past it can push raw fuel into the vapor recovery system the station uses to capture gasoline vapors, meaning the gas you just paid for gets sucked back rather than burned in your engine, and you risk damaging your car's evaporative emissions system in the bargain. When it clicks, you are done. Secret 6 is the reason the cheapest looking station on the strip is not always the cheapest, and it comes down to a quirk of how owners actually price, which is that they watch only the competitors on their own side of the road. A station owner who ran his lot for 17 years explained it bluntly, that a traffic median might as well be an international border, because drivers will not cross oncoming lanes to save a couple of cents, so the station prices against the lot it shares a curb with and ignores the one directly across the street. That means the genuinely cheaper fuel is frequently on the other side of the road from where your momentum is carrying you, and a U-turn you were too lazy to make is the whole reason you overpaid. Secret 5 is the bait and switch built into the very design of the business. The fact that the cheap fuel price on the sign is a loss leader to pull you toward the door. The fuel barely breaks even, so the entire profit model depends on getting you out of the car and inside, where the convenience store waits. Industry data is stark about this. that the goods inside, the drinks, the snacks, the lottery tickets, account for only around 30% of a station's revenue, but roughly 70% of its profit, with gross margins on a fountain soda or a coffee running far higher than anything the fuel will ever make. The low gas price is not generosity, it is the hook, and the store is where they actually fish. Secret 4 is the placement of the bathroom and the coffee, which is not an accident either, because surveys show a meaningful share of customers who use a station's restroom make an impulse purchase on the way out, which is exactly why the clean restroom and the fresh coffee smell are positioned to march you past the highest margin shelves in the building. Knowing the store is the profit engine, not the fuel, is what lets you walk in for the restroom and walk out without the $12 detour they planned for you. Secret 3 is the timing of the price changes themselves, and it punctures a comforting myth. Many drivers imagine a single hand in big oil yanking every station's price up in unison, but station owners confirm the oil companies are not even permitted to set their retail prices, and that prices instead move locally based on what the competitor on the same side of the road just did and on the wholesale cost of the next delivery. The practical secret is that prices tend to drift in patterns, often climbing ahead of weekends and holidays when demand is reliably high, which means the discretionary fill-up is cheaper midweek than it is on a Friday afternoon when the whole city is heading out of town. Secret 2 is the warehouse club arbitrage that quietly beats almost every other option. The fact that Costco, with its Kirkland signature fuel, is both top-tier certified, carrying 5 times the federal detergent minimum, and routinely priced 20 to 30 cents a gallon below the surrounding branded stations. Read that combination again, because the industry depends on you assuming that cheaper fuel must be lower quality, and that quality must cost more, and Costco breaks both halves of that assumption at once, delivering genuinely enhanced detergent protection at a price that undercuts the corner store. The only toll is a membership and sometimes a line, and for a regular driver that is trivial against the per-gallon gap repeating on every fill-up for as long as you own the car. Secret 1 ties everything together, and it is the one almost nobody ever calculates, the true cost of where and how you habitually fuel, because the station's entire business is built on the certainty that you will not do this math. Stack it up. You overpay on the credit spread you never read at the pump. You press a premium button your engine cannot use. You skip the rewards card sitting in your wallet. You pull into the nearer same-side station instead of the cheaper one across the median. You let the loss leader sign walk you into a store engineered to take 70% of its profit from your impulse buys, and you do all of it on fuel, where the station barely profits, which tells you the surplus is coming almost entirely from your inattention. The fuel is the bait, your habits are the catch. The razor-thin 3 to 7 cents a station makes on the gallon is dwarfed by everything it makes on the way you behave around the gallon, which is precisely why no one on that forecourt will ever read you this list. Now you have it. Which of these 14 were you already beating, and which one are you going to change on your next fill-up? Drop it in the comments and subscribe for more honest motoring advice.